Hey mushlings, I'm Zilxari and welcome to my wonderful whimsical world. As promised, this month I present to you with a cute tentacly VTuber, Nyanners and Nyanners. Did you guess right? Of course you did! It was the only right decision after making Iron Mouse last month. Nyan is a very normal and polite girl with nothing strange about her. As we all know, all cats have 9 lives, 6 tentacles and 5 eyeballs. I'll save you the pain of me trying to figure out how I wanted to create a good boning for the base of this lovely, totally normal human creature that is Nyan. I squangled some real thick wire for the base and main support, wrapping smaller craft wire on itself and attaching it back to the strong base. The craft wire is quite flexible, so wrapping it on itself should provide a little extra support. The antennae got a support curve at the back and the general shape outlined at the front, leaving an eternal void that consumes you from the inside out, feeling every aspect of your life as you feel the cold, empty expanse creep into your dark, lonely soul. To reduce some weight to stop it from being top heavy and add some pretty litty stuff later on. To support the agile nature of the feline, cat muscles are made up of foil to keep them lightweight and flexible, activating the defense mechanism of 2 tentacles in the process. Nyanners began content creation back in 2011, truly an elder goddess. I made this concept ages ago, and during that time Nyan came out with her ancient evil form, which was honestly just a matter of time. I was thinking of doing something a bit different, but then I was like, yeah, will be next time. So we're sticking with it. Once satisfyingly curvy, I started adding a medium-ish layer of clay skin to protect the muscles and ensure my plans aren't foiled. I spent a lot of time off camera smoothing, adjusting and blending the skin until it was a gratifyingly wormy texture. Many little teeths were prepared off camera by selecting a little ball of clay and forming it into different sized cones ranging from itty bitty to big chongus. These were baked in the oven to harden before they could be surgically installed. Then adding each tooth one by one, pushing them in firmly to keep them in place, blending them in with an extra wiggly womble of clay. I've never sculpted with CosClay, but thanks to north of the border, I have been itching to test my hand at making wormy dealies for 2 years, so here we are. If you want more sculpt experience advice at making tiny nerdy things, then I'll link Adam's channel down below, in the off chance you haven't already seen all the amazing things. Can I just say, the clay was hard as dick-dicks. I spent like 4 hours just getting it to a moldable consistency, which was a massive pain in my batoot. Other than that, it was actually really easy to work with sculpting. So, if you have also been looking for adding another hobby to your collections, then this clay is for you. Or maybe not. To prevent chaos from ensuing in the oven, I marked the positioning of the LED light and made a little slot down from the front of the antennae all the way down to the base. Then in the oven she went at 135 degrees for 2 hours because she's thick. Once baked and cooled, the LEDs were stuck in place with Masper, covering the wire with epoxy sculpt and leaving the switch accessible. Now it's just a matter of adding some paint, covering the antennae and chompers with some tape, starting with a base of black and cleaning up the teeths with white. A little bit of subtle purple lighting was also added, using the LED lights as reference from the top to see where the light would fall, but you'll just have to wait for the reveal. I had 2 little blibs of clay left, and what better to do than make some lickety boys. Building up and adjusting the clay with some wire using a tool that had a diamond pattern to add texture, painting it an appropriately tonguish red. Going back in with dry brush later to add some highlights. The lickety boys were coated in some resin to add some shine and little drips. Then they get shoved into some secret slots that were made earlier, keeping them in place with some Masper. Nyan is skilled at singing in English, Japanese, Latin, Russian and mythical languages, such as that which is used in the Song of Ancients from Nier Automata. Eyeball number 1 is made out of some translucent foam. To form the semisphere, a circle was cut and heat formed in a fancy teacup with a heat gun, priming with Flexibond. You could also use a hairdryer and some PVA glue, but it'll just take a little bit longer. Starting with an appetizing series of purple acrylics, I realized my blunder as I frantically wipe off as much as possible, going back in with some alcohol-based markers instead. The acrylic paints were a little bit too thick for the light to come through, and the saturation looked really patchy with thin acrylic paint. Nyanners has released 5 albums comprising of mostly memes and cover songs, as well as her own original song Foolish Heart in 2021. Creating a little oval void in the center of the eye, very carefully adding the detailing as light as possible but still visible, dulling the sides with black to reduce the dispersion on the edges. Despite being a cat, Nyan does not like milk, and is in fact lactose intolerant. But don't you worry, on the 18th of Jan 2022, over 20,000 viewers came to suss her stream while Nyan milked herself. No, I won't elaborate. Swiggly swaggly lightning beams were added with that beautiful fluoro pink that I oh so love, sticking the all-seeing eyeball in place with Masba, and everything got a big old coat of Mr. Superclear. I selected another pre-prep Draculaura from my Dracustash. I will make a quick video at some point, but until I run out of pre-prep faces, I will avoid that shiitake like hot fire. Luckily, I didn't need to adjust the height for Nyan, but she undeniably needed some curvaceous hips and titollinis. Also straightening that spine and adding some ear bones with epoxy clay. Nyanners is able to shape change to possess other forms, adopting many vessels before taking her current non-threatening wholesome pink catgirl form. Sticking in the craft wire with some Maspa before the clay had time to completely cure. Smoothing the skin with some exfoliating void sheets and sealing with MSC. Fox fur can be fluff and expensive and hard to find, so this deconstructed hat will have to suffice. Measuring the length against the wire, sewing along the top and pulling it in to create more of a point at the tip. Then it's just a matter of sewing all the way down to the base, leaving an opening at the bottom. Little rectangles were pre-cut, reducing the volume of the fluff for easy stickage. Laying down a layer of Maspa, sitting the middle of the fluff across the back, wrapping it round to meet in the front. Then adjusting the volume and cutting off any excess. Extra tufts were added later to hide the seams at the front. The tail sock also got a haircut before pulling the wire over and sticking it in place, with, you guessed it, Maspa. The cut is a little janky since they were done with scissors and not a trimmer, but it's fine, it adds character, okay? Painting her body with a very humanly soft apricot acrylic. Occasionally, Nyanners will take on the power of a male entity known as Nyan to play first-person shooter games. I pre-prepared the wefts and the fringe using a soft pink Sinatra nylon from Custom Doll Hair AU. The fringe is very similar to the way I made Mousie's if you'd like a more detailed look into that. The only differences were the shape, and Maspa was used instead of contact cement. So I didn't have to use a ribbon to hold the wefts in place, and it dries super quick! The hair is nice and easy this time, sticking wefts to build up most of the hair, moving from the bottom up. Only rerouting the edges around the ear and the hairline to blend it in nicely. A few soft curls were added at the bottom of the hair off camera, intentionally doing it now rather than later so it ends up a little bit messier. Again, the fringe stays off until the face-up is done. Nyan did not originally have a tail, often attempting to conjure one. Nonetheless, it would always shrivel up and fall off. Eventually, she was gifted with a plug-and-play kind of tail, if you know what I mean. A combo of light and dark pastels were used for the tail and the ears to make them a bit more pinkish than apricot. This also helped the ears blend better. Might have gone a little bit overboard, but I think the shadow root looks pretty cool. I mean, yes, it was all a part of the plan, all along. Pink blushing was also added to the cheeks, nose, joints, and booba. The chaos ensued when I decided to add some black blushing to the legs mid-thigh down. I promise, it looks better later. In the distant past, Nyanners and Iron Mouse planted thousands of fake bones of dinosaurs in the ground to trick future scientists. For the corset top, we are using Handy Dandy Warbler, starting with a lovely soak to loosen the ever-dominating pressures of society and relaxing those bones. Giving Nyanners' chest a warm embrace and cutting and shaping until happy with the fit. Casting Inanis to transform black with fabric lining on the inside to prevent damage. Sticking down an old classic choker with masper to the top to make it a little fancier. You know, the one every girl and her dog wore in high school? Why are you looking at me like that? Shh! The original design I had in mind was very different, and there are 3 reasons I didn't go with this. 1. Running out of time. 2. Running out of clay. 3. No more teeths. For the love of my sanity. No more teeths, please! So, I decided to roll with it and see what I could come up with. Initially, I wanted something more flowy that I could drape around the bottom to keep some of the original concept, but the fabric I wanted to use wasn't the best fit and I didn't really like any of the others I had, hence the fancy legumes instead. Take 2. The aim was to show off them hips and legs, but the feetsy pockets were a little too close together, so I had to scrap that. Take 3 was winner winner darkness dinner. To make the bottom, a strip offcut from the scaly material was used, gathering one side and folding the rest into a V shape. Sewing all the way down the other side, adjusting the folds to sit properly and cutting off any excess. Then, bippity boppity boby duplicate, we now have 2. Pinning the right sides in, leaving the short side detached and sewing down the long side of the skirt. Flipping the skirt back the right way, sticking it along the bottom of the corset. Nyan's favourite food includes chicken katsu, pierogi, green curry, banh mi, and vodka. The top was covered with a small strip of the scaly fabric, folding the seam inward before sticking it down. Why glue, you may ask? The scaly part of this fabric is really finicky to work with, and we all know sewing is my nemesis, hence the less the better. Nyan was created by Azathoth, a sleeping outer god of Craftian mythos to drain the sanity of mankind. It is said that all of creation is just Azathoth's dream, and if they were to ever wake up, reality would end. So keep draining that sanity, Nyan. Hopefully it keeps Azathoth asleep forever. When happy with the dress's fit, the skirt bottom was connected, covering the seam with a little rose painted Nyan's favourite colour, purple. The bottom part of the fabric is stretched, so with a little bit of effort it slides into place without needing a clasp. Warbler is back on stage for the second set of eyes, sectioning off 2 round blips and rolling out a long boy that got cut into 6 evenish noodles. Wire was inserted at the back of the eye, moulding the warbler over the top. The noodles were shaped into mini 3-pronged tentacles, attaching them to the side of the eyes. Nyanners claims that her chest size is actually FF cup for Final Fantasy, but she hides it underneath a sports bra so that she can move around on stream more easily. All receiving a coat of Plastidip, which I forgot I had in black. Now the fun part, painting. The tentacles got a gradient from dark to light purple using acrylics. Irises got a base of light purple with pink flecks. Adding little squiggles and pupil outlines in bone white, going back with magenta for the eyeball outlines and pupil center. Leaving the best for last, it's time for face up and legumes! Starting by laying down the outlines with a purple watercolor pencil for the eyes, eyebrows and lips. I have been converted from watercolor to acrylics, it's just so much easier for me at least. Beginning with a base of white for the sclera and dark purple for the iris, eyelid lines and outer corner of the eyes. Going back in with light purple for the innermost iris and inner corners of the eye, adding itty bitty pink flecks to brighten up the eye even more. Pupils got a similar styling as the first set. Laying down a bone white base, but using dark purple for the central pupil slits instead. Shinies were added as a little white dash on the top and an itty bitty dot on the bottom left. I honestly think these are some of the best eyes I've done so far. Eyebrows were a combination of light and dark purple, just so they were dark enough to show through the fringe later on. The same colour method was applied with the lips as the eyes. Using a dark purple base, lightening the bottom lip with light purple, adding pink flecks and little white shines on the top left and bottom right of the lips. Nyan is strongly moved by video games such as Ocarina of Time and Final Fantasy X. FF10 is her #1 game of all time, owning at least 5 copies of the game, playing it at least once a year, and I quote, "I am in love with this game. This game is my soulmate. I'm going to get married to this game. I now pronounce you Nyanners and..." I also added some last minute lashes on the lower lid in white to keep them settled, and stuck the fringe in place. A rough line was laid out for the legumes, but as usual, I only half followed them. Painting dark purple from the top down to about halfway, then swapping for the bottom half and the feetsies, painting them black. To create a better contrast for the gradient, a little bit of light purple was added to the top as well. If you're still here, I hope you're having a fabulous day. Thank you so much for your support. What's your favourite tentacle creature? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, let me check here. Yep, we got the 6 tentacles and 5 eyeballs. That means our perfectly normal cat girl is done. Presenting to you, Coalesced by Nyanners. Part 2 of the project is complete. Please go and transmit some love to Nyan. I had a bunch of little accessories planned, but this project was definitely way more ambitious than I had time for, so hopefully it doesn't look too rushed. I'm so glad I finally got to try my hand at sculpting, and there will be more. There will definitely be more. What do you think? Do you like this version of Nyan? If so, please consider doing all the lovely things, and maybe one day the absolutely normal cat girl will stumble upon the Forgotten Forest. She has a crown made of bones, a heart as sweet as honey. Which VTuber is next? Guess in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed our craft times together. Feel free to join the forest. I'd love to hang out more and hope to see you looming around. Bye! As promised this month, I present to you with a cute tentacly VTuber. Nyan was created by Azathoth. Nyan was created by Azathoth, a sleeping outer god of luck. It is said that all of creation is just Azathoth's dream, just Azathoth. Is just Azathoth. Just Azathoth is just Azathoth's dream, and if they were to wait, just Azathoth's dream, and if Azathoth's dream, and if they were to just Azathoth,